In 1980, Michelle Smith and her therapist published Michelle Remembers. This memoir told of how Michelle, while undergoing therapy, recalled repressed memories from her childhood of having been ritually abused by satanic cults. Soon, other individuals began alleging that they too, while receiving therapy, had remembered being ritually abused as children. The alleged abuses were horrifying acts, said to include supernatural and devilish symbols, candles, knives, human and animal sacrifice, and sexual assault. Never questioning the authenticity of these reports, the news and daytime television helped amplify these allegations. Oprah interviewed Michelle Smith on her television show, and Geraldo Rivera claimed that there were thousands of Satanists in the United States and that they were kidnapping and murdering children at astonishing rates. The paranoia that these sensational reports created led to accusations, arrests, and in some cases, incarceration of alleged Satanists for the ritual abuse of children. The most notable example of this is that of the McMartin Preschool in Manhattan Beach, California. The employees and owners of the preschool were accused and stood trial for hundreds of counts of conspiracy and child abuse in what became the longest and most expensive trial in American history. Authorities searched for and failed to find the network of underground tunnels beneath the school where the alleged abuses were reported to have taken place. The McMartin employees were ultimately acquitted after no physical evidence could be found, but others who were convicted of satanic ritual abuse spent years or decades in prison before their cases were overturned. Were organized satanic cults really abducting and torturing children all across the country? If not, then the panic and wave of accusations that followed created real harm to those accused. There's also the matter of harm done to patients who may have been convinced by their therapists, using controversial practices, that they were the victims of abuse that did not occur. What are the demographic factors that make someone most likely to believe that they've been the victim of satanic ritual abuse, or for mental health professionals, believe that their patients have been? Can understanding the panic of satanic ritual abuse help us better understand others who believe in similar conspiratorial ideas? Why is it important to study this decades-old case of apparent mass hysteria? The panic over satanic ritual abuse eventually faded, but the belief in secretive satanic cults performing ritualistic torture of children in hidden underground chambers would re-emerge. During the 2016 presidential election, a North Carolina man armed with an assault rifle entered a Washington, D.C. pizzeria to search for the underground caverns he believed were being used by Satanists and Democratic Party leadership for the ritual abuse of children. Belief in the QAnon conspiracy, that there is a vast network of Democratic pedophiles and Satan worshippers, was a commonality among many of those who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Recent events are too fresh to have comprehensive body of work to look back on and learn from. By understanding the panic surrounding satanic ritual abuse and those who believed it to be authentic, we might gain insight into others who believe similar satanic conspiracies persist today. The consensus from the literature is that no organized satanic ritual abuse occurred. Law enforcement was never able to identify physical or medical evidence to corroborate the extraordinary claims made by the purported victims. Individuals claiming to be the victims of satanic ritual abuse share several characteristics with people claiming to be the victims of other bizarre traumatic events, such as UFO abduction, further straining their credibility. Most, if not all, the people claiming to have been the victims of satanic ritual abuse as children had no memory of the abuse until mental health professionals recovered their repressed memories using controversial therapeutic practices. Mental health professionals who identified ritual abuse survivors were also more likely to diagnose other controversial disorders, particularly the presence of multiple personalities. Only a small number of mental health professionals ever encountered a case of ritual abuse, and they were more likely to have attended special training or workshops on how to identify and treat ritual abuse survivors. These mental health professionals are also responsible for nearly all reported cases of ritual abuse, in some cases reporting dozens or hundreds of cases, whereas most mental health professionals never encountered an instance of ritual abuse, and a few reported having seen one or two ritual abuse cases throughout their entire career. There's relatively little research into the demographics of satanic ritual abuse survivors and the mental health professionals who identify and treat them, but members of the American Association of Christian Counselors were more likely than a random sampling of members of the American Psychological Association to report patients having been victims. Because much of the general population of the United States identifies with Christianity of some kind, that does not help us identify how affiliation with specific denominations may influence a mental health professional's belief that their patient has been the victim of satanic ritual abuse. Some of the literature uses language suggesting a correlation between evangelical or born-again Christianity and the reporting of satanic ritual abuse, but no study to date has examined this connection. In the 1980s, believers of satanic ritual abuse created panic and, through the legal system, upended the lives of people they falsely accused of horrifying acts for which there was no corroborating evidence. Today's believers in satanic conspiracies are turning to extra-legal means, from vigilantism to mob violence. Further study should be conducted to identify the specific religious denominations mental health professionals and their patients are affiliated with to better understand the relationship between the reporting of satanic ritual abuse and religious denomination. Gaining a better understanding of the last satanic panic can help us understand the current and future conspiratorial thinking.